Hi, I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of becomeabassist.com, and in this lesson you're going to learn all about your modes of the major scale. You're going to learn exactly what they are and how they work in very simple, easy to understand terms. First things first, if you don't know about your major scales yet, this lesson might be a little bit hard to follow, so go and check out this lesson up here for the kind of full picture of how your major scales work, and then come back to this one. The modes of the major scale were a huge sticking point for me. They were super confusing. I used to ask people about them and they'd kind of try and explain them in their own words, but then I'd end up even more confused than I was before. So it was a real pain for me when I was trying to learn all this stuff. Eventually though, I had a kind of mini epiphany. Everything kind of clicked. So in this lesson, my goal for you is to try and nudge you towards your own mini epiphany and see if you can get there a little bit faster. When you understand modes and how they work, it's completely liberating. You can play virtually over anything and almost be guaranteed not to play any bum notes. It's fantastic. The first thing that used to confuse me when I was kind of starting out was all the terminology. So let's clear that up right now. Now, when you hear the term modes of the major scale, you can just substitute the word mode with version. You get versions of the major scale. And personally, I like to think of them as a kind of family of scales. There's the major scale itself, which is kind of the parent scale, and then you've got all the different versions, the different modes of that major scale, which are all related to that original scale. And they're like the cousins and the aunties and uncles and the brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, all that kind of thing. So let's use C major for our lesson today. No sharps, no flats, it'll be super simple. So we're going to have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Super simple. No sharps, no flats. Now the modes of this particular major scale, the C major scale, they're all going to use those same exact notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. That's why I say they're a family of notes. They're all related. To create the major modes, all you do is take the notes of that major scale and start on different places within it. So in this case, we started on C and went to C. So we would go C to C, using the notes of C major. That creates the C major scale, obviously. But if we were to, for example, start that same scale and go from D to D, that would give us a version or a mode of that same major scale. Now what you're not doing is playing the same shape just starting on a different note. So if we played this kind of shape and then played the same shape starting on the next note, that's not a mode of the major scale because those notes are actually different than the ones that we used just before. So let me show you what I mean. So we've got the C major scale. Now I'm going to start on the second note, this D right here, and just go using the exact same notes from D to D. Yeah? Just like that. See how we're using the exact same notes as the C major scale? Just starting at a different place. In this example, we started on the second note of the C major scale, right? We started on that D, which is the second note of the scale. We get 1, 2. So that means that this is the second mode of the C major scale. If we started on the third note, this E right here, and played the same notes, it's the third mode. If we start on the fourth note, this F, we get the fourth mode. If we start on the fifth, we get the fifth mode. If we start on the sixth, we get the sixth mode. And if we start on the seventh, right here, we get the seventh mode. The same exact notes throughout the whole time, we're just starting at different places in the scale. This is why I say all the modes are related to each other, because they all use the exact same notes. And this is true of every single major scale, not just the C major scale, every single major scale. And not only that, but each of the different modes or the different versions of the major scale has a fancy Greek name that's associated with it. Even the plain old major scale has a fancy Greek name. It's Ionian. And this is one of the things that can be confusing as well, is that one thing can have several different names. So if you ever hear anyone talking about the Ionian mode, you can just replace in your mind Ionian mode with major scale. They're the exact same thing. So the name of the first mode obviously is Ionian. The name of the second mode is Dorian. Third we have Phrygian. Fourth, we have Lydian. Fifth, we have Mixolydian. Sixth, we have Aeolian, which may sound like a delicious salad dressing, but it's actually the sixth mode. And we also have Locrian is the seventh mode right there. Another important point right here. You name the modes for the note that they start on, not the key or the parent scale that they come from. Now this is important, so I'll say it again. You name the modes by the note that they start on. Don't go by the original key or the parent scale. Let's do a quick example. We've been using C major as our example. Now if we go up to our second mode, which is, as you know, the second mode is a Dorian mode. Does that mean if we start on the second note of C major, then that's a C Dorian? Definitely not. You name the modes by the note that they start on. So if we're playing this second mode of C major and we're starting on a D, then it's going to be a D Dorian. Yeah, so we've got C Ionian because the Ionian starts on C, obviously the first note. You're going to have D Dorian. Yeah, so if we continue this kind of thought process, then the third mode is going to be an E Phrygian because we're starting it on an E. Next we're going to have F Lydian because we're starting it on an F. Next we have G Mixed Lydian. Next note of the scale is A, so we're going to have A Aeolian. And finally, the next note and final note in the scale is this B right here, so that means we're going to have B Locrian. And then if you keep going up, we're going to have C Ionian again, just like that. Do you see how that works? Even though the parent scale is the C major scale, we're naming the modes for the notes that they start on, not by that parent scale. Now this is true for absolutely all of the major modes. Now the first one is always going to be an Ionian, the second one's always going to be a Dorian, third one Phrygian, etc., etc. You get the idea. Now if you want a full rundown of every single mode in every single key, then I've put together a cheat sheet for you as part of the ultimate guide to the modes, which you can get for free by clicking the link underneath this video, going to the site and signing up for the ultimate guide to the modes. Not only will you get the cheat sheet, but you'll also get the full PDF guide to the modes. It gives you very step-by-step instructions on how to use them, where to use them, and you'll also get 24 different practice tracks that can have you using your modes today. Now after this lesson, it's very possible that you might be thinking, well, if it's all the same set of notes and they're all related, why bother with them at all? Why use the Dorians, the Phrygians, the Locrians, all that kind of thing? That's a great question. How are you supposed to use this stuff? And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next lesson, all about modes. And you can check that out right up here. But to recap really quickly, you learned all about the modes, or the versions of the major scale. You learned that the modes of the major scale actually use the exact same notes as the parent scale, and that's why they're related. They're all a family of scales. You also learned the fancy Greek names for each of the modes, plus you learned all about how each of the modes is named for the note that it starts on, not the parent scale that it comes from. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'm Luke McIntosh, creator of BecomeABassist.com, and I'll see you in the next lesson.